Trump notices a homeless veteran. What he does next surprises everyone. It was a crisp autumn evening in New York City. The golden hues of the setting sun reflected off the towering skyscrapers as Donald Trump, the billionaire businessman and future president, exited the Trump Tower. A small entourage followed him, his security detail maintaining a watchful eye on the bustling streets. As he made his way toward his limousine, something caught his eye: a homeless man, wrapped in a tattered military jacket, hunched against the cold marble wall of a nearby building. His beard was unkempt, his eyes weary, and his hands clutched an old military duffel bag as if it contained everything he had left in the world. Trump paused, ignoring the urgency of his aides who were urging him to move along. He turned to his security and murmured, "Hold on a second." Then, he approached the man. "Hey there," Trump said, his voice carrying the unmistakable authority of a man used to commanding rooms. "What's your name?" The veteran looked up, startled. He hesitated before replying, "John Parker, sir. Former U.S. Marine." Trump crouched slightly to meet him at eye level. "A Marine? Huh? What happened?" John sighed, his breath visible in the chilly air. "I served 2 tours in Iraq. When I got back, things were tough. PTSD, no job, lost my family. Before I knew it, I was on the streets." Trump studied him for a moment, then stood up and motioned for his assistant. "Get this man a hotel room for the night. Actually, no, make it a week. And get him a hot meal. Something good. Steak or whatever he wants." John's eyes widened. "Sir, you don't have to." Trump waved him off. "Nonsense. You served our country. The least I can do is make sure you have a roof over your head and a decent meal. But tell me something, do you want to work?" John sat up straighter. "Of course, sir. I just need a chance." Trump smiled slightly. "Good. You'll have one." He turned to his aide again. "Get in touch with my people at the Trump Organization. I want to see if we can find him a job. Maybe security, maybe maintenance, something he's good at." John was speechless. His throat tightened with emotion. He had spent years being overlooked, ignored by passers-by, treated as just another statistic in the homeless crisis. But here was one of the richest men in the world, not just acknowledging him but offering him a second chance. As Trump's limousine pulled away, John sat there in stunned silence. Then, an aide tapped him on the shoulder and handed him a keycard. "This is for the hotel," he said. "And here's a card with a number. Call it in the morning. Mr. Trump wants to help you get back on your feet." For the first time in years, John felt hope. The next day, he checked into the hotel, showered, and had his first warm meal in weeks. Within days, he was in an office at the Trump Organization, filling out paperwork for a job. Months later, a journalist who had heard the story tracked John down. He was dressed in a clean uniform, working as part of the Trump Tower security team. When asked about his encounter with Trump, he smiled and said he didn't have to stop. But he did. And that changed everything. The story made waves across the media, inspiring others to look at homelessness, especially among veterans, in a different light. And for John Parker, it was more than just a kind gesture. It was the beginning of a new chapter in his life. John Parker had spent his first night in a warm hotel bed, something he hadn't experienced in years. The soft mattress felt foreign, and the silence of the room was almost eerie after so many nights on the noisy streets. He barely slept, not out of discomfort, but because he was still in disbelief. Was this real? Had Donald Trump, a billionaire who had no reason to care, really stopped and changed his life just like that? The next morning, he showered, shaved, and put on the fresh clothes the hotel staff had left for him, courtesy of Trump's team. For the first time in years, he saw a different man staring back at him in the mirror. His sunken eyes, once filled with hopelessness, now held a glimmer of something he hadn't felt in a long time: purpose. A knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. A well-dressed man stood outside, holding a folder. "Mr. Parker?" the man asked. "Yes. I'm from the Trump Organization. Mr. Trump asked us to take care of you. We've set up a meeting for you downtown at one of his offices. He believes there may be a job opportunity for you if you're interested." John straightened his shoulders. "Yes, sir. I'd be honored." A second chance later that day, John walked into the Trump Organization headquarters, feeling overwhelmed but determined. He had spent the last few years being looked down upon, ignored, or pitted. But here, people were treating him with respect. He met with one of Trump's top executives, a sharp-eyed woman named Ms. Davenport. She reviewed his background, listened to his story, and then asked a simple question. "What kind of work are you looking for, Mr. Parker?" John hesitated. "Honestly, ma'am, I just want to work. I was in the Marines." I can do security, maintenance, whatever is needed. Ms. Davenport smiled. Well, Mr. Trump believes in giving people chances. He's arranged for you to start training with the Trump Tower security team. It's a full-time position, benefits included. Think you can handle that? John blinked, barely processing the words. A full-time job? Benefits? A real paycheck? Yes, ma'am, he said firmly. Good. You start next Monday. John could barely contain his emotions as he shook her hand. He left the building with his head held high. He wasn't a homeless man anymore. He was an employee, a worker, a man rebuilding his life. A surprise meeting a few weeks later, John was stationed in the lobby of Trump Tower, dressed in a crisp security uniform. He had learned the ins and outs of the job quickly and had built a reputation for being reliable and professional. One afternoon, while scanning the room, he heard a familiar voice. Well, look at you. John turned and saw Donald Trump himself walking toward him, a confident smirk on his face. John straightened up immediately. Mr. Trump, sir. Trump clapped him on the shoulder. I see they got you squared away. How's the job treating you? John smiled. Better than I could have ever imagined, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. Trump nodded. You earned it. You just needed someone to give you a shot. Now, don't mess it up. He winked before walking off, leaving John standing there, grinning. The ripple effect John's story quickly spread. News outlets picked it up, and social media was buzzing with praise for Trump's unexpected act of kindness. Veterans organizations took notice, with some inspired to launch their own initiatives to help homeless vets. One day, as John finished his shift, a younger man approached him hesitantly. His clothes were worn, his eyes tired. Excuse me, the man said. I heard about your story. I'm a veteran too, and I'm struggling. I don't know where to go. John looked at the man, remembering the desperation he had once felt. Come on, he said, guiding him inside. Let's get you some help. Because of one moment of kindness, not only had John's life changed, but now he had the chance to pay it forward. Months passed, and John Parker settled into his new life. He had gone from sleeping on the streets to working in one of the most prestigious buildings in New York. Each morning, he put on his uniform with pride, grateful for the second chance he had been given. But John didn't just want to survive, he wanted to help others like him. His encounter with the young veteran who had sought his help that day had ignited something in him. He started connecting with other homeless vets, offering them advice, guiding them to resources, and even speaking at local shelters. Trump's return one evening, John was stationed at his usual post near the main entrance of Trump Tower when a familiar figure walked in, Donald Trump, now deep into his presidential campaign. Cameras flashed as reporters followed him inside. John watched as Trump greeted a few guests and then turned his attention toward him. Well, look who it is, Trump said, shaking John's hand. Still holding down the fort? Yes, sir. And I can't thank you enough for what you did. Trump smirked. I didn't do anything. You did the work. I just gave you a push. He glanced around at the crowd forming. You know, maybe you should come speak at one of my rallies. People need to hear your story. John's eyes widened. Me? Sir, I'm not much of a public speaker. Trump waved a hand. Nonsense. Just tell the truth. That's all people want to hear. A few weeks later, John found himself on a stage in front of thousands of people. He told his story of war, loss, homelessness, and the moment that changed his life when someone took a chance on him. The crowd erupted in applause, and John realized something. His story could inspire others. A mission bigger than himself. John continued working security, but now he had a new purpose. He partnered with veteran organizations and started a small outreach program, helping former soldiers find jobs, housing, and mental health support. One day, he received a letter on White House stationery. John, I heard about what you're doing for our veterans. I'm proud of you. Keep going. Donald J. Trump. John sat back, staring at the letter, overwhelmed with emotion. Just a year ago, he had been invisible. Now, he was making a difference. He knew then that his journey wasn't just about survival. It was about helping others rise, just as someone once did for him. And so, with renewed determination, John continued his mission, proving that one act of kindness can change not just one life, but many.